The question, is a 200mm travel downhill e-mountain bike with a battery and a motor faster down the hill than one without? Is it faster? Is it smoother? Which one is going to get you to the finish line the fastest? This is e-downhill bike versus downhill bike. And it's not just any old downhill track, it is one of the most feared tracks on the World Cup circuit, Fort William. And we are putting these bikes head to head down here, an e-downhill bike versus a downhill bike. And that is not any old downhill bike either. This is the exact model that won the opening round of the World Cup series. On a previous comparison in the truly horrible rocks of northern Italy, Steve pitted a 160mm enduro style high bike e-bike up against a 200mm downhill bike, the Canyon Sender. He was utterly convinced that the downhill bike was faster, but alas, this was not the case. As ever, with comparisons like this, the track is a big factor, but it's not going to be a problem today because we definitely have two very capable downhill bikes, and that is very much a downhill track. The mighty Alec Moore track has hosted Britain's round of the World Cup series since 2002. It has seen some massive wins, some huge crashes, and it definitely is not the place for the faint-hearted. Now this place worries me. It worries me a lot. Now the things I'm not looking forward to are the sheer distance of badness and the amount of rock here that can potentially tear you and your bike apart should you get it wrong. It's going to be a full-on run. So the bikes that we're going to be using for today's challenge, well, for the e-downhill bike, it is my Husqvarna Extreme Cross 10. Now this is a brand with massive off-road heritage, and if there's a bike built for today's job in mind, then this is definitely the tool for the job. So wheel size, well, this is 27.5 front and rear. It's an all aluminium chassis and it weighs in at 25.9 kilos. It's got a head angle of 65 degrees and a wheelbase of 1,298 millimeters. Chainstay length 455 millimeters, bottom bracket drop of 0 and a seat tube angle of 76 degrees. So this is the Canyon Sender, and this is one of the new school downhill bikes. It is a very different machine to the sort of downhill bike that I used to ride back in the day. This thing is insanely light and it is absolutely full of tech. Riding this thing is definitely going to be a revelation. And this Sender downhill bike, well, it rolls on 29-inch wheels front and rear. It's a full carbon chassis and it weighs in at a featherweight 15.8 kilos, 63-degree head angle, a wheelbase of 1,304 millimeters, chainstay length 445 millimeters, and a bottom bracket drop of -21. And a seat tube angle, well, they didn't really care about that one. So what we have here are two very different animals. The main differences being the weight of the bikes and of course the difference in the wheel size. These two things alone will affect different things on the hill. Braking points. Heavier bikes require earlier braking. Then the ability to jump. Will I be able to work that big heavy e-downhill bike over those big jumps above that speed limiter? And the grip levels. The heavier bikes have more grip. Simple. Then there's the poise and balance. Heavier bikes are less prone to being bounced offline. Then there's a rollover of these wheels. Larger wheels roll faster. All these things are going to amount to an amazing head-to-head. I really think it's going to be a game of profit and loss. First up, the start hut, and as I enter it, it is pretty intimidating thinking of all those World Cup races that I've won and lost a few races here. But for us today, on the E downhill bike, it's all going to be about what power mode you're in and selecting that right gear to get a good boost out of the start gate. So I'm going to be on the E downhill bike, going to have the power on for the whole rundown, but we're going to be above that speed limiter. Just a few hard cranks and drop in and then pick up the speed. So from the start hut, it winds its way down the hill with a few loose stony corners with some faster lines maybe on the inside. But then we come to the famous boardwalk section. Now, I heard horror stories about riders being blown off this section when the weather is nasty, but it's a bright blue day here and a gentle breeze, so it's not going to be a problem. I think on this section, it is pretty smooth, so hopefully you're going to get a load of cranks in and build some speed up. Especially on that lightweight sender, I think this could be king at the boardwalk, whereas on the E downhill bike, I'm going to be working hard with that weight above that speed limiter. As we snake our way down under the gondola, this is where it starts to get super rocky. There's some really big rocks here, some big rock faces to traverse down. It's a game of whether those big wheels on that 29er will roll faster over this stuff, or whether the weight of that e-bike's going to snowplow through it and really hold that line. So we're off of the moorland into the woods. Now this is where there's a big surface change on the track. We've gone from that loose pinball-y style rock into more kind of bike parky stuff here. We've got a lot more smoother surface, still some big rocks on the way, and you know, a few drops. And I think line choice and laying off those brakes is going to be super important to getting a good time through this section. And it's a lot less physical. This is your chance to sort of get a bit of, you know, loosen up on the bike rather than holding on really hard through those rock sections. This is the bit where you can relax and hopefully get some strength for that bottom section. So this is a stream jump, and it's actually worrying me a little bit more on the downhill bike over the E downhill bike because I haven't bunny hopped like a downhill bike for ages. I feel a little bit more comfortable on the E, but time will literally tell. As we approach the finish line here at Fort William, we have the motorway section. Now this is a section where fitness really comes into play. You've really got to dig deep here. This is a section of step downs and tabletops, and these are large. We're talking around 40 to 50 foot long, and you need to make those landings if you want to stay safe and stay on your bike, and of course carry that speed. But I don't know which bike is going to be the advantage here. Will that e-bike with the weight and its jumping capabilities and prowess shine? Or will that Canyon sender, being that little bit more lighter, be a bit easier to bring up to speed and handle in the air? And this is the finish. Now this is where you get a chance to breathe and relax. Your run is over. Just a steep chute and a couple of small drops just to finish off. And time will tell whether that e-bike is going to be faster than the downhill bike. But let's go hit some runs and find out. Right, I've done a couple of runs down this hill now and I'm feeling pretty comfortable on the bike, so I think it's about time we put in a race run. Right, goggles on, turbo mode engaged, Garmin ready to go. 3, 2, 1. Inside line there. Whoa, oh my God, that was intense, so rough the whole way down. Your body takes an absolute beating, as does the bike too. Oh, times on the score then. For the e-bike, 7 minutes, 11 seconds, 0.71. Average speed of 14.95 mile an hour, a maximum speed of 32.48. I can't believe how physical that is, even on this bike. So I'm going to jump on that sender in a minute, and that thing is going to be absolutely brutal down that hill. My arms, my legs. I'll grab a drink. Okay, so just as the Husqvarna, I've done a couple of laps now on the sender, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable on this bike and quite liking how light it's actually feeling too. So I'm expecting a bit of a different time, just whether it can hold that speed as well as the e-bike. So I think it's about time we sender down the hill. All right, goggles on, no turbo mode engaged, just leg power for this one. All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh my God. Oh, my arms, my legs. Oh, God, that was pretty brutal. Oh, and a lot harder work than that downhill bike. Time then, 7 minutes, 20 seconds, 0.46. So 9 seconds slower than the downhill bike. I could have swore that was faster. So that concludes a big day on the hill here at Fort William, and I'm absolutely knackered. My hands ache, my legs ache, my back aches, every bit of bone. And if you haven't ridden that track, you definitely need to get here to check it out, because it is absolutely brutal. It looks nothing like it does on TV, I can assure you that. But I want to talk about these two bikes down the hill. One was faster, that being the downhill bike, 9 seconds faster than the sender. And I want to touch on a couple of good and bad points about each bike on the track today. I think with the downhill bike, I obviously feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more at home on that bike. I'm kind of tuned into that weight, and the grip was insane on that bike actually. With those tires and the weight of that bike, when it got rough, it really didn't get bounced around as much as the sender. And of course, I just think it just gives me confidence downhill basically. With the sender, I found the lightweight was great for hitting those small jumps. You could change lines super easy, but I did find myself getting knocked offline a lot more. And one thing I did really recognize was my feet were bouncing around on the pedals so much more than they were on the downhill bike. Now this probably comes down to the system weight of that bike keeping me in contact with the ground. If you get that line right and hit the downslope, the sender I think would be the faster bike downhill in the right set of hands. But for me, I'm tuned into the downhill bike, and that was faster for me down this track here at Fort William today. But let us know what bike would be faster for you. Are you more of a downhill bike guy, or an downhill bike, or just a standard e-bike? Do you think you could beat your downhill bike down this trail? Let us know in the comments box down below. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to us here on EMBN, and we shall see you in the next one.